But if you feel like you're constantly sliding out and you're scared, don't worry, it's totally common. If you're new to riding off-road or just coming from the street, then you've probably noticed that it's a lot easier to wash out or slide out your tires, especially when going around a corner or braking or accelerating. This is what makes dirt biking so challenging but also fun, because you never have 100% traction in the dirt. In order to prevent your wheels from sliding out, you've probably just tried going slower. Maybe you started to tense up, and maybe you just tried trying it over and over again until you get better at it. And while that can help, if you don't have the proper technique, it's just going to take that much longer, if ever, to really build your confidence and feel safe on the bike. And I want to show you a few common mistakes that beginners make that might be causing your problems. You can try them out the next time you go ride, and you can possibly see night and day difference from today and tomorrow. So what exactly is happening when your tires are washing out? Well, when your bike is standing upright, it's going to have the most potential for traction because all the weight is centered on where the tire is contacting the ground. But once you start leaning the bike over, this puts less weight on the tire where it's contacting the ground. So the more you lean the tire over, the less traction you're going to have. So essentially, the more you lean it over, the less potential traction you have and the slower you have to go. So what are the common causes that will make you slide the tires out more easily? Well, one really big one is being too aggressive with the brake or the throttle. So a lot of beginners, this is one reason why you might be afraid of using the front brake, is when you stab at the front brake, which I don't have here because it's a flat track bike, but if you stab at the front brake, this puts too much load, too much pressure on the tire too soon. So when you stab at the brake, you quickly squeeze it, it tries to stop the tire, and this essentially shocks it on the ground, because when you hit the brake, your weight's going to go forward, the front forks are going to compress, and if you don't allow enough time for that weight to transfer onto the tire, it's not going to have as much traction. So when you're waiting for that weight to transfer onto the tire, this is going to compress the rubber down into the ground, and when there's more rubber touching the ground, all that weight is on there, this will allow you to use more braking pressure. So really, it's just that first initial grab of the brake. It's really easy to do, to just grab the front brake, especially in an emergency when you're trying to stop quickly. You stab at it, it locks up, and then the front wheel washes out from under you, and you're down on the ground before you even know it. So this is why you need to be smooth with the brake, just for that first initial point, for that weight to transfer, and then you can progressively put more and more braking pressure on. And it's even more important to practice this to build up your muscle memory, because when you get in an emergency on the trail, let's say you're coming up on a two-way trail and you see around a corner, you come around a corner and oh no, there's a dirt biker, or worse, a UTV. Nothing against UTVs, but sometimes they're flying around the corner and you need to slam on your brakes. But if you haven't built up that muscle memory of being initially slow on the brake, you'll just revert back to what your body is normally used to, and that's just slamming on the brakes, and this will cause you to lock up the wheel and wash it right out. So if you have just 5 minutes a day, just go out, practice the smooth braking, and you really need to practice your front brake, because that's where 90% of your braking power is. And the same goes for the throttle. If you're snapping the throttle, you're more likely to break the rear tire loose, and this is not only slower, but you're going to have less traction because your rear end is going sideways back and forth. And if you get too far sideways and then you quickly shut off the throttle, this can hook the tire back up, and then it can actually go too far and throw you the other way, and this causes a really nasty high side. So practicing being smooth with the brake and throttle, and then also practicing on different terrains, different conditions. Even sand, wet versus dry, is going to have more or less traction. And then when you go to hard pack, it has different traction as well. So just being mindful of what type of terrain you're riding on, and then practicing how much brake you can start with and then progress to, will really build your confidence, because you're going to have more control over the brakes. You'll be able to stop faster, and you won't be as likely to wash out your wheels. And in addition to being smooth, if you're riding tense, you're tensing up on the bike, this will make it even harder to be smooth on the brake and the throttle. So if you're death gripping the bars, your hands and your fingers are going to be really tired, especially after a long trail ride. It's going to be hard to just reach out and grab the brake lever, because your hand is so pumped up, it's going to cramp up. So if you're staying relaxed on the bike, this will make it much easier to reach for and quickly react and grab for the front brake, even though you should be leaving a finger on the brake as it is. And a common reason why people tense up, they death grip the bars, is because they don't feel like they're strong enough to handle the bike, especially a bigger bike. And if that's the case, then you need to check out my video on how to ride if you're not very strong like me, because I'm not. So check that out, and then let me know how it goes. I'm Kelly Fager from Motocross Hideout. Learn more, ride more, so that you can stay safe and have fun for many years to come with your friends and family.